In the past few months, we've seen 13 wide receivers drafted in the top 55 picks, 3 top 10 receivers traded in blockbuster deals, multiple receivers obtained massive guaranteed contracts, and it's all because of the Cincinnati Bengals. We've all heard this a million times, the NFL is a copycat league. Once a team finds a winning formula, it doesn't take long for other teams to follow suit, and the Bengals found one of the best winning formulas we've ever seen, going from finishing with the worst record in the NFL and selecting first overall in the 2020 draft, to beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and making the Super Bowl just 2 years later. It truly is one of the most impressive turnarounds in league history, so it should come as no surprise that many other NFL teams have been attempting to steal pages from the Bengals playbook. Not literally, of course, but we can see there's been a major shift around the league regarding what type of pieces teams are trying to add to their rosters. Now, if you ask the media or social media, how did the Bengals go from the first overall pick to the Super Bowl in just 2 years, most of them will say because of Joe Burrow. But if you ask around the NFL, you'd get a much different answer. Burrow deserves a lot of credit, of course, but his rookie season was rocky, to say the least, which is understandable. He was a rookie on a bad roster, but I feel like a lot of people think Burrow just dominated from day one without any help, and that's not exactly true. In fact, his rookie numbers were a lot closer to Tua's than they were to Herbert's. Maybe he could have kept improving if it wasn't for his injury that sidelined him the rest of the season, but we'll never know. All we know for sure is his numbers were underwhelming his rookie year, and he didn't really take a leap until this past season, and there's a reason for that. And for me to explain this reason, we need to take a look back at the offseason after Burrow's injury, where it was widely assumed the Bengals would be willing to spend a lot of resources trying to revamp the offensive line. They had the 5th overall pick in the draft, and most believed they would use it on generational tackle prospect Penei Sewell. And it seemed like a no-brainer at the time, considering poor O-line play led to their franchise QB's season-ending injury, and also since T. Higgins was coming off a very respectable rookie season, wide receiver didn't seem like an immediate need. But the Bengals front office saw it differently. They realized the importance of playmakers, and they decided to take a risk. They passed on offensive line help and selected Jamar Chase, and the Bengals were attacked for this decision. It even led to the famous Burrow and Jamar stick figure meme. But as we all know, Chase took the lead by storm, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and this decision not only changed the Bengals franchise, but also the future of the NFL. The Bengals went from a below-average yak team to an elite yak team. Joe Burrow went from the worst deep ball passer in the NFL to the best, and the Bengals went from an anemic offense to the most explosive offense in the league. And of course, Mixon staying healthy, Higgins' development, Usama's breakout, and yes, Burrow's improvement all had a hand in the turnaround, but Jamar Chase was without a doubt the number one catalyst and the most important acquisition the Bengals made during their rebuild. This offseason, the demand for talent at the receiver position has skyrocketed, specifically because of how much success the Bengals had this past year. And let's be honest, NFL front offices aren't looking at Joe Burrow as some generational talent that they'll never be able to get on their rosters. They see him as a respectable QB that has been elevated by elite playmakers. It's clear that teams now believe that adding star receivers on the outside can help their young or plateauing QBs take a leap. And don't take my word for it, just look around the league. The Dolphins gave up multiple draft picks to bring in Tyreek Hill for Tua Tagovailoa. The Eagles traded one of their first rounders on draft night for A.J. Brown to pair with Jalen Hurts. The Raiders traded a first and a second for Devontae Adams to reunite with Derek Carr. The Commanders drafted Dotson to pair with Wentz. The Jets spent a top 10 draft pick for Wilson Squared. The Saints moved up to secure Olave for Winston, and the Lions traded up 20 spots to give Jared Goff the fastest receiver in the draft in Jameson Williams. All these QBs have a lot to prove this year. This is not a coincidence. This is a clear new trend in the NFL, and an even more interesting part about this was all these teams already had promising or established receiver talent, yet they decided to continue spending capital to acquire even more talent at the position. The Saints and Commanders wanted to add talent alongside their established guys, while Waddle, Devontae Smith, Amon St. Brown, and Elijah Moore all had very promising rookie seasons, yet these teams still were willing to spend a lot of capital to bring in even more talent. These decisions to keep adding receivers was directly influenced by the Bengals. The Bengals already had T. Higgins, who was coming off a promising rookie season and looked like he had number one potential, and they had other needs that many considered to be more important than adding another wideout, but they went ahead and drafted Jamar anyway, and as a result, their offense changed overnight. The Bengals didn't want a respectable receiving core, they wanted the best receiving core in football, and this mindset is what allowed them to turn their franchise around so quickly. What the Bengals did had the league call into question one of the main pillars of team building. The idea of building through the trenches is dying, and it's much quicker to surround your offense with playmakers and let them carry you as far as they can, as opposed to spending multiple years and resources trying to build an elite offense and defensive line. The playmaking ability of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins masked the Bengals' poor O-line and average defense, and these two receivers were the key factors in the speed of the Bengals rebuild. And all of this brings up an interesting question. How important are receivers? The positional value of the wide receiver has now become more of a question mark than ever before. I think more and more teams will be willing to risk lots of capital to acquire playmakers on the outside, and I promise you this will not be the last time I talk on this subject because I think it's quite interesting. I'm so curious to see how the QB play is impacted by these offseason moves. If we see young guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Zach Wilson all take massive strides in their development, or if we see guys like Wentz, Winston, and Carr revitalize their careers, this could send the value of the wide receiver position to a whole nother level. And with young superstars such as Justin Jefferson and Deebo Samuel coming up on contract years, we could see some of the largest non-QB contracts that we've ever seen from the wide receiver position. And it'll be interesting to see if teams are willing to pay their young stars big money, or if they prefer to send them away for what could be an even bigger trade package than we saw for Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. But regardless of the long-term effects, it's clear the Bengals' decisions have had a major impact on this offseason. And I promise you that this does not end here. Front offices will be constantly reevaluating the success of their rosters based on what receiving talent they brought in. So we definitely have to revisit this later, but at this moment, I think this may be the next mega trend in the NFL, and it might just change the league forever.